Hey, yo, Pro Wrestling Podcast listeners, help us out and click subscribe to show your support. While you're at it, shoot on over to our Patreon page at patreon.com/Pro Wrestling Podcast. If you want to become a member of the Pro Wrestling Podcast family, remember, we give shout outs to all our members and to our top contributors at the $50 level. You can host with us live a podcast episode on going live at 9:05 Saturday nights every week here at the Pro Wrestling Podcast. Hello everyone and welcome to this episode of the podcast. This is our episode where we are going to cover all things that were Money in the Bank and today's news and rumors as we go through the program. So let's get started right away with Money in the Bank and the results that really for a lot of people were shocking. I don't know why. We've got Vegas out there putting odds out about who's going to win everything in the world anyway, so at some point we should just start to accept the fact that they're going to tell us everything before the pay-per-view even gets here. It makes it even less likely to drive the audience to the pay-per-view when they already know who's going to win everything. But the pay-per-view was interesting. And when I say that, what I mean by that is that you would expect that a lot of the people who were predicted to win would win. I did not have a problem with that. What I actually had a bigger problem with is multiple matches having horrible booked endings. All right, let's talk about that for a minute. First off, the first match of the night, the kickoff show, the Hype Bros go over the Colognes. It's really a throwaway match. I guess it's a way to reintroduce the Hype Bros. Now, here's the issue I have. We've got American Alpha's been off television for quite a while. The Hype Bros are not the same, but a very similar gimmick, the very jock-like, athletic type tag team. So, one of them has to go heel. And so heading into this pay-per-view, especially the way they reintroduced Zack Ryder on SmackDown, I kind of got the impression that they may be going that direction, either turning Ryder heel, maybe Mojo wanted to do his own thing and Ryder would go against him for turning his back on the team or something of that nature, or the Hype Bros would come back and American Alpha would jump them, and it would set off a great feud for these two teams and give them both something of substance to do. I mean, let's face it, the Mojo Rawley angle, with him being a single star, he won the Andre the Giant Battle Royal. They haven't done a thing with him since. I think the loss to Jinder Mahal last week, or the week before, or whatever, was the first match he's had on SmackDown in like over a month. So, I don't really see any stalling of his push because he really wasn't getting one. If anything, this offers opportunity for him to get a push. But again, putting him against the Colognes who the night that they debuted on SmackDown, they looked great, and ever since then they've looked horrific. So you had an opportunity to grow your tag team division, give us some legitimate tag teams, and instead you flushed pretty much every tag team down the toilet, and then you bring in the New Day, who are supposed to be the new kings of the division, and we'll get into their match later, but even that angle has been completely botched. So, Hype Bros over the Colognes. We go into the actual pay-per-view show, and we have the show kicked off with the first ever women's Money in the Bank match. We all were looking forward to this. Could the women really hang with the men? Could they put on the kind of high-risk match that the men are known for? And they did. They did a great job. Kudos to all 5 women for really, they did an amazing job. They brought respect. They brought attitude and some spunk and real excitement to the women's division. I'm so impressed with what they did. All 5 women deserve to be commended. And then WWE booking does what WWE booking seems to do with every good angle they've had for the last 10 years, is screw the whole thing up. You have James Ellsworth come in the ring and pick up the ladder and knock Becky Lynch onto the top rope, which I always find it interesting. Somebody falls off a ladder. Now, if you watch closely, she falls from about 6 feet. The ropes are only about 5 feet tall, and she hits her face, and that's it. She's out of the match. She can't recover. Whatever. I expected James Ellsworth to get involved with Becky Lynch. I think they should have a match at some point, and I think they were actually working towards that. But then you have James Ellsworth. He looks like he's going to drag Carmella to the ladder so she can climb up and get the briefcase, and instead he climbs up and gets the briefcase for her and drops it to her. Now, this is where you had the opportunity to do the right thing. If you want Carmella to win, I have no problem with that. I couldn't care less who wins the match. My issue is right there is when a general manager, either Daniel Bryan re-debuting and shocking everybody, which would have been very cool, or Shane McMahon, because he's the one who's been holding down the fort while Bryan's been away on his maternity leave, and he should have come out, and they should have restarted the match. Carmella could still win the match. I don't care about that. but I have a problem with how they did it. No woman was allowed to climb the ladder and grab the briefcase, and most importantly, in this age of women's revolution where we're trying to say that the women are going to be on the same par as the men on the show, they didn't give any woman the opportunity to stand at the top of the ladder, hold her briefcase high, and soak in that moment. And that's something, when you are chosen to win the Money in the Bank, that's something I feel like you should automatically get. And unfortunately for Carmella, she wins, but she wins in a shady way, and it really taints the historic potential for this match, especially considering how good the match was all throughout. The next match is the Tag Team Championship. New Day, they get the win, but they get it by controversy again. A count-out victory. So the Usos are getting their tail whooped. It was actually a fantastic tag team match. So 2 for 2. Great matches, horrible endings. The Usos, it gets to where it's very obvious that the Usos are not doing so well, and they just take a powder. They grab their belts and leave. You just had the historic Women's Money in the Bank ladder match, and you did a schmoz ending there, and then you come right back and do the same thing with the Tag Team Championship match. If I was a fan, if you were looking at the fans in the arena, they were just like, dude, are you serious? Like, you look around the arena, you could see the look on their faces, like, oh my gosh, did they really just pull this nonsense on us again and give us a horrible ending in back-to-back big matches? Oh, but wait, it doesn't end there. Because we go into the next match and we get Naomi defending the Women's Championship against Lana. Now, the spoiler alert is Lana didn't win the championship. She lost the match to Naomi. But again, another schmoz ending. So, first off, kudos to Lana. She has very little training, has had very little time to hone her craft, and I actually thought she held her own pretty well in the match. So, for Lana, fantastic. And she was very gracious on Twitter when she responded after the match to the critics of her match, saying that she has a lot to learn. She gave a lot of respect, and I thought that was really awesome. Naomi looks great. Here's the issue I have. In the match, Carmella, the new Money in the Bank ladder winner, comes out with her briefcase, teases that she's going to cash it in, and then it leads to a distraction of Lana so that Naomi can pick up the win. It almost put Naomi into the heel role and Lana into the babyface, confusing the entire division, and then she doesn't cash in anyways. So we kick off the show with, the kickoff show was miserable. Clones look like crap. The Carmella junk win for the first ever Women's Money in the Bank. The New Day getting a count-out win. Naomi getting a distracted win. Let's make it a little more enjoyable. So what can we do to make the pay-per-view sound good? They put out a Fashion Vice vignette with Breezango trying to figure out who it is who has been tearing apart their area in the back and whatnot. I actually thought this might have been the most entertaining part of the show, with the exception of the main event. I thought this was so well done. They had, Fandango standing there with the old-fashioned portable phone that says property of Paul E. on it, which I thought was awesome. They had their suspects on the wall, the Dusty Rhodes, the Michael Hayes, and all those kinds of things. And then they had a VHS tape, and they, not a Coliseum videotape, and they put it in the machine, and you're going to find out who's been destroying their stuff and attacking them, whatever. And you really got the feel leading up to this pay-per-view that they were going to do something interesting with American Alpha. So I was waiting for this. I thought, this is it. It's been a month of the Fashion Files, a month of trying to figure out who this tag team is that's been wreaking havoc on the Breezango tag team. And then they go to the ring, and it's the Ascension? Why? You actually had some interest last month when they challenged for the tag titles, and they came up a hair short. Fast forward a month later, people are still loving Breezango. They're loving the Fashion Files. This was an opportunity to bring out American Alpha, flip them heel, have a big match in the ring, have American Alpha go over so they look strong. But no, you put out the Ascension, and not only do you bring out the Ascension, they got beat. And they got beat handily, relatively quickly. They didn't even look good. And the face paint they got on now is terrible. But this was such a wasted opportunity. It could have been so much more. I actually kind of went out of order there because the Fashion Vice vignette happened and the match didn't happen till, that was the bathroom match right before the main event. But I digress. Mike Bennett and Maria Kanellis debut as Mike and Maria Kanellis. It's funky to see Mike Bennett come out and claim to be Mike Kanellis. That's just strange. Booker T, or I think it was JBL. It was JBL actually called him out on that at the pay-per-view, saying he took her last name. it just was weird, and they were doing this overly in love thing, and whatever. It's almost like Miz and Maurice on steroids. It seemed very juvenile. It seemed very B show. I really didn't like it, especially when you got somebody like Mike Bennett, who really could be a top draw for the company. Now they've already kicked off his career in WWE with some nonsense garbage angle. The next match, we have Jinder Mahal retain the World Championship, the WWE Championship, over Randy Orton. You knew this was going to happen. You know that they're going to set something up going forward for Jinder Mahal. So Orton had to lose, which is interesting. They're in his hometown with his dad in the audience on Father's Day, and they have him lose. But the end of the match was just somewhat frustrating. You know, you got the Singh brothers who get thrown out, yet they never actually leave the ringside. They attack, they go after his dad, and of course he makes a save and beats the living snot out of both the Singh brothers. And then he slides into the ring and gets hit with the exact same finishing sequence that he got at the last pay-per-view. Like, there's a limit to how stupid the booking can be, and this was horrible booking. You have to be more original than 2 pay-per-views in a row. Randy Orton, the Viper, is going to get caught by the same nonsense where he goes outside the ring, beats up the Singh brothers, climbs in the ring, takes the Cobra Clutch Slam, and he suddenly loses the match. Like, that doesn't make even a little bit of sense with someone the caliber of Randy Orton. So obviously the writing team had no creativity for this. Moving on, that was actually after that match is where they had the Breezango Ascension match. God awful, whatever. Then we get to the match of the night, which I think a lot of people expected, but I don't even know if I could have predicted it would be as good as it was. The Money in the Bank ladder match was awesome. Absolutely awesome. You saw all the high spots you needed to see. Sami Zayn doing a killer sunset flip off the top of the ladder and taking Dolph Ziggler down. There was a huge bump outside the ring with Kevin Owens going onto a ladder, where there was actually reports today that Kevin Owens got injured. I have to report that has been proven to be wrong. He is expected to do tonight's house show and tomorrow night's SmackDown taping, so apparently people jumped the gun thinking he got injured last night, but it was so physical. It was believable. In addition, the match didn't even get started before the action started, because Shinsuke Nakamura got attacked by Baron Corbin as he was coming out to the ring. And even that looked really awesome. The highlight of the match, Nakamura makes a return about 20, 22, 23 minutes into the match. He finally makes it to the ring, takes everybody out, multiple knee strikes. It's an awesome moment. And then as he gets the ladder set up, AJ Styles comes into the ring, and we see the face-off of AJ Styles and Shinsuke Nakamura. And here's the thing. Since Nakamura debuted on SmackDown, he's been smiling way too much for a man who's the king of strong style. And this looked like Nakamura from New Japan Pro Wrestling. He had the look, the grit, the anger in his face. He and AJ, the mad respect they have for each other. They went at each other. They had a great exchange. It looked like one of them may win. And of course, at one point, they're both on the ladder going at it, and Baron Corbin comes in, knocks them both onto the top rope, just like the women's match. I don't understand why a clothesline off the top rope is a way to end every Money in the Bank match. And then he sets up the ladder, and Baron Corbin, as predicted, is the winner of the Money in the Bank ladder match. If you watch Talking Smack after the show, great conversations with Naomi. Booker T was really complimentary of Jinder Mahal. I thought he was very fair to Jinder Mahal. And then you had Baron Corbin come out. They had an interesting moment there where Corbin and Mahal had a little bit of a stare down. I don't think they have any plans of making that match ever happen, but it actually looked relatively interesting. I would be curious to see how they would book that match if they decided to go that direction for some bizarre reason, especially considering it's not in the cards right now. But Talking Smack, it just ended the show perfectly. So, good pay-per-view when you think about the in-ring action. Here is the problem. Too many schmaz endings. Carmella's, The New Day, Naomi. Even the funky way Breezango's match went down. Jinder Mahal. 5 matches out of 6 were god-awful. The finishes were terrible. So, WWE's got to figure something out. They got to get more creative with how they book these matches, what they actually are delivering to us as fans. We're paying good money to watch these shows, and WWE's a multi-billion-dollar corporation for a reason. But when your viewership is down, you better start getting creative. There is no WCW anymore to have a Monday Night War with to push you to rise to a higher level of expectation. WWE has to do that because it's the right thing to do for the product, and they're not. And that's a problem. You've got a 3-hour Monday show, a 2-hour Tuesday show. You got an NXT brand you're trying to cultivate. They need either more television exposure with shorter programs during the Saturday afternoon hours like they used to do, or something to bring an audience in. But whatever they got to do something to generate more interest, and they got to get more creative with their booking. Go back to doing squash matches like they used to have way back in the day. We talked about this on one of the Going Live at 9:05 episodes. You do the squash match show. I don't care. People like to see their favorite wrestlers. They don't care that they beat up some local guy. Do it. But you got to start building some intrigue, because nobody cares right now about the product. I'm going to get off WWE for a second. I'm going to go into some of the other news and tidbits for the day. Gregory Helms, formerly Hurricane Helms, he has been with Impact Wrestling for quite a while now, and he announced today that he is leaving Impact Wrestling. He made reference on Twitter to he's not a kisser, and he's not going to start now, and he especially not to an owl. So there's obviously some animosity towards Anthem themselves. I suspect that it's monetary. That somebody, I was looking, I believe it was on eWrestlingNews.com, where they said that right now there are 7 agents that TNA has on the roster. You don't really need 7 agents when you're, recording episodes a month or a month and a half in advance. You're recording multiple episodes every recording. I think they were just cost cutting. But he is now gone, as are Al Snow and Simon Diamond. Simon Diamond's been with the company since 2003. Al Snow since, I think they said 2008. So, 3 major agents cut now from the company. And if WWE was smart, they'd be jumping all over all 3. Because they all 3 could be great coaches at the Performance Center and would offer a very unique perspective on the business. Could be very helpful. Other side note news for the day, Ryback had a statement on his podcast where he talked about the condition. There's a specific condition that he would require if he were ever to return to WWE. He said that he was at a gas station, and a young man came up to him after he had gotten beaten down by the Shield. And this little kid, I don't forget how old he said he was, asked him when he was going to get revenge on the Shield for beating him up. And he talked to the kid about, sometimes the bad guys just win. His condition for coming back is he would have to go to the ring, call out all 3 members of the Shield, and beat them all 3 down, because he's never got his revenge. That is some of the stupidest booking idea I've ever heard in my life, and I know he's got a much more popular podcast than I do, but you know what? It doesn't take a blind man to see that is stupid booking. It would never happen. So making a statement like that, the guy's an egomaniac, but dude, get a clue. You're a great talent. When you were undefeated, they screwed up. They should have given you the world championship and not done things the way they did. They didn't. I'm sorry they didn't do it that way. They should have. You were a great talent at that moment. However, you fizzled out. People got tired of seeing the Feed Me More. They got tired of seeing the same match every time you got in the ring. Move on. If you want to go back to WWE, go back. We'd love to see you. I'd love to see you. I actually like watching you perform. I think you're a great talent. The issue I have is you're not the world champion right now. You're nowhere close to that right now. You're not on John Cena's level or AJ Styles' level or Shinsuke Nakamura's level. Not even close. So come back, be gracious, build yourself back up, and at some point they should do the right thing and give you a shot. Problem is, with the way he talks on his podcast, I don't see that happening. Couple other tidbits real quickly on the WWE side of things. There are plans for Baron Corbin, as we've reported before, and it was reported again today by the Wrestling Observer. The plan going forward is for Jinder Mahal to take the World Championship and lose it to whatever babyface, most likely John Cena, and then for Baron Corbin to cash in on said babyface, probably John Cena, and then feud with John Cena. I'm okay with that. The problem I have is this. They need to fast forward and get that going sooner rather than later, because I really want AJ Styles to win the title at the Royal Rumble a year after he lost it, so he could take it into WrestleMania and defend it against Nakamura. That's what I want to see. In addition, Daniel Bryan, they've been talking about he's coming back this week to SmackDown, but he had an interview that he put out, and he said there was a couple things that I thought were really important to mention, that Kenny Omega and Matt Riddle are 2 talents that he wants to see in WWE. He thinks they would both do extremely well there, and that's a huge compliment coming from Daniel Bryan, because he has been very upfront, very honest on talking smack, and any other opportunity he's had a chance to speak. And he would absolutely love to see those two talents. So that speaks volumes for them. If he has any stroke whatsoever, if the people in WWE respect his opinion whatsoever, they need to follow his line of thought. Now, there was a rumor out last week that Matt Riddle is being wooed by WWE, and I hope that they do bring him in. But the whole issue with Kenny Omega is he almost feels like he has this devotion to New Japan. He won't leave until he gets to a certain level, and I think he may miss his opportunity to make a monstrous impact in the world of professional wrestling, into the level that I don't even know if he realizes. You know, doing these phenomenal 6.25 star matches with Kazuchika Okada are wonderful, but if you don't have the international exposure that you could have with the WWE brand, you could put that 6.25 star match on with AJ Styles at WrestleMania, and then you really bring some attention to professional wrestling as a whole. So we'll have to see. By the way, if you haven't done it yet, fan voting is going to close Wednesday night, 8:30, for the Elite 8 round of the tag team tournament. So pop over to frolifeplanning.com/FroPodcast, and the vote button is right in the middle of the screen. So go ahead and do that. Make sure you get your votes in. In addition, if you have questions, comments, concerns, things you want me to address in a future episode, call into our Sound Off line, 267-642-1160, and give me all your feedback, all your info that you want me to go over. I'm more than happy to do that. I think it's a fantastic opportunity to connect with my audience, and I really appreciate you guys. So by all means, do that. Don't forget, like I said earlier, shoot over to our Patreon page, patreon.com/FroWrestlingPodcast. If you want to become a Patreon member of the Fro Podcast family, we would greatly appreciate it. That's all the time we have for this episode. Check back with me in probably tomorrow, because I try to do these as often as I can, for the latest news and rumors. We'll cover Raw and whatnot. Special thanks, as always, out to bensound.com and purpleplanet.com for producing all of our music and sound effects we used in today's show. Today's podcast is sponsored in part by Beazle Games. Bringing a new friend to family game night is easy with sketchy people. Showcase your artistic side in this new game from Beazle Games by going to www.frolifeplanning.com/FroPodcast and click the link on the right-hand side today. And to AlleyRepair.com. Contact Alley Repair today for servicing of all of your classic skee-ball, pinball, and arcade game needs. Be sure to shoot over to our website at FroLifePlanning.com for all your higher education needs, as Fro Life Educational Planning is for today, for tomorrow, and for life with Fro Life. I'm Fred Froelich, better known as Mr. Fro, and I want to thank you for taking a few moments with us today. And if you're looking for more wrestling news and rumors, go to www.thesportsjunkies101.com and check out the latest articles on the world of professional wrestling. Until next episode, everybody, take care. Have a great night.